Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. Yesterday we talked about the sentencing, which is coming up for Josh, and what might be expected for the number of years that he could be facing. And today I got a message from one of my subscribers who sent me a link to a video that was posted on YouTube, which happened to be a wedding video of Hannah Reber to David Keller, which is Hannah Reber was Josh Duggar's guardians. So while he was out on bond, he was living with Maria and LeCount Reber. Josh Duggar stayed in a room at their property. And so Hannah Reber, while they were out on bond, was living there. That's the youngest, their daughter. And she, I believe, was like 21 or 22 years old. She met David Keller, who happens to be Anna's brother. So in June of 2021, David and his dad visited Josh in Arkansas, and he and Hannah met, and by July they were engaged, and then they were married on November 19th.
When David came into our life, it was a surprise. It was a blessing. He ended up at the kitchen table there, and I guess I was out mowing grass, and I came in, and I guess I didn't see the spark, but everyone had to fill me, and that spark turned into a wildfire. And I said, does someone have an extinguisher here or something? We got to slow this thing down.
I did a video on November 24th about whether or not Josh might have broken his bond conditions by going to a wedding that was in attendance of all kinds of people. So we had found some photos that we thought looked like Josh, but it was very carefully put out by the family that Josh didn't appear in any of the photos, and there was no evidence that he was there outside of like a receding hairline that we saw that seemed to match Josh. But 2 days ago, Gabriel, the film guy for the IBLP, he filmed the wedding for Hannah and David. And Hannah and David's wedding was attended by a ton of people. They did it outside in Arkansas, and Josh Duggar was there. 1,000,000,000% surrounded by children and his siblings. So I don't know the agreements between Josh and the court in relation to this. Just the overall optics of this look really bad. So the video was released on YouTube on the 14th. As I was scrolling through the video, I noticed that Josh and Anna's kids were in the wedding. So Mackenzie, Meredith, and Mariella were little flower girls. And then Mason looked like he was a little ring bearer. And then a couple of the older boys, I think Marcus and Michael, were also in the wedding. So the wedding parties were kind of big. Lauren Duggar was also in the wedding, and so was Katie Duggar. At the wedding, though, Josh was there, and he was seen only once on video. And it was when they were showing the group photo of the family, of David's family. So David's family and his siblings were all in attendance. His sister, Priscilla, was there with David Waller, who was actually in the wedding. And David's kids, along with Priscilla's kids, are surrounded by Josh, along with his kids. There's also Susanna Keller, who is Anna's sister, younger sister, who looks just like her, who stands next to Michael. And there is Mackenzie, Nathan and Nuri were there, and then their sister Rebecca, and then Daniel Keller. So all of his siblings made it to the event. There was a separate photo of video shot of like all of David and his siblings. But what I thought was really bizarre was that in the video, Josh and Anna are in the photograph with the rest of the family. So Josh was on bond, and he was required on bond to have no contact with children that were not his own. Now, there was a stipulation on his bond by his home detention, which said that he was restricted to his residence at all times except for employment, education, religious services, medical, substance, or mental health treatment, attorney visits, court appearances, court-ordered obligations, or other activities approved in advance by the pretrial services office or supervising officer. So if he wanted to go somewhere that wasn't in that line, which a family wedding would not be on that line, he would have had to make a request to the probation officer and ask them if they would approve his attendance at this wedding. Now, what I think is bizarre, though, is that a stipulation on the bond release says that he is to have no contact with minors, including his family siblings and members, with exception that he may have supervised visits with his children. So as long as Anna was there, he was allowed to be around his kids, but specifically the judge said that he was not allowed to be around other people's kids. So in this video, it's very clear that Josh is, one, holding Madison, two, around children that are not his own, and three, his siblings were in attendance. So Jordan Duggar was there along with Josie. Josie was actually a junior bridesmaid, and I actually caught a snap of Jim Bob. He was like standing up while everyone was walking down the aisle. So Jim Bob was at least there. I didn't see Michelle, but that doesn't mean she wasn't there. It's just that there was so many videos and so many people, it was hard to find anyone. But Jim Bob was for sure there. And so there was a lot of people around and tons and tons and tons of kids. So I'm sitting here going, okay, so I'm trying to imagine in my mind that Josh Duggar gets an approval for this. How do they make sure that Josh isn't around anyone but his own kids while he's at an event like this? And then why would you want Josh Duggar in your wedding photograph? That's my question. Like, even if he is your brother-in-law, why would you want him in your picture given what was on the coming up? This was 2 weeks before trial. His family clearly did not believe he was guilty. I mean, there's no other rational explanation in my mind that a family member would allow him to be in a photograph unless they truly believed he was innocent. Because I can't, as a mother, imagine allowing someone who's out on bond for what he was charged with to be in a picture with my wedding, on my wedding day. Like, who wants any memory of Josh Duggar in your photographs? I would be like Xing him out, cutting his face out. I wouldn't even want him in there. Like, did he have to be in that photograph? Wouldn't have just been as easy to have Anna in there without Josh in the photo? But the fact that he's surrounded by so many kids, I'm like, does this family even care? Did they care during bond that he had this many kids around him? Jordan was there, Josie was there, so his younger sisters are there, and the court says that he's not supposed to be around them, and yet there he is. It's so weird to me that a court would order or allow this to happen, knowing that the judge was very specific that she wanted him to have no contact with minors. So part of me wonders if Josh Duggar was granted access because of the safety in numbers. So there's going to be a lot of people around him, and he'd have very limited opportunity to be alone with a child. And because Anna was with him and because he was at an event where his guardians were there, maybe it was because they were all around guardians and there was no other option for him to not be there. But even that doesn't make sense to me because they specifically chose LeCount and Maria Reber. They were so careful to find a family that didn't have any kids. That's how worried they were about Josh being around children, is that they had to find a family that had no kids and that would have no kids coming to the house. I mean, Hannah Reber had to put off her piano lessons and not have piano lessons in her house because Josh Duggar could not be around kids, even if Hannah were to give the kids piano lessons. So they had to, Hannah had to go and bypass her piano lessons, but Josh is at a wedding where there's tons of kids. So I reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office to verify if he was given any sort of, I did a media request with the U.S. Attorney's Office to verify if Josh had any sort of approval to attend the event and what any kind of stipulations there would have been for him to attend the event. And I received an email back from a law enforcement coordinator who told me that the U.S. Attorney's Office had no comment regarding Josh Duggar attending a wedding, and they directed me to the U.S. courts. So with the U.S. Attorney's Office having no comment on the photos and the idea of trying to reach out to the U.S. court systems, which at this point it's not clear to me who I would even contact. I don't know that we'll ever get the answer on whether or not Josh Duggar was allowed to attend this wedding, or if he was allowed, or if he was allowed to be around children. The optics here don't look good because the judge was so clear in the magistrate, when she gave him his bond order about how much she didn't want him around kids. Like, Hannah couldn't give piano lessons, but he could attend a wedding where there's like all kinds of kids around, and he didn't have a travel restriction in the area in Northwest Arkansas. So he could travel around Northwest Arkansas without restriction. He was limited to traveling within Northwest Arkansas. And the activity here, I don't know if he even had to get a special request. I mean, could he have listed this as a religious ceremony because it's a wedding that had a pastor at it? Or would the activity be separate as a wedding? Mackenzie was a flower girl, and she actually caught the bouquet, which was cute, but also made me kind of like my stomach drop because she's like 12. Anna and Josh are just smiling like there's no care in the world. It concerns me that no one in the family was at all concerned about Josh. No one in the family seemed to be at all concerned about his access to kids, that people even wanted him at a wedding. Did Maria and LeCount tell the probation officers that they were going to watch and monitor Josh at their own daughter's wedding? I have so many questions and so few answers, and the U.S. Attorney's Office has no comment. Pretrial investigation sentencing report was put out on the 11th, and we don't get access to any of those reports. A lot of the pretrial, either pretrial and post-trial reports that are done by the probation office are sealed and confidential. So even if we were to get any information about this or directed to the right person, we might never know the answer. So for now, I will say this: Josh Duggar at a wedding smiling around children doesn't look good, doesn't look at all good. Doesn't necessarily mean that there was even a violation. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.